Do you
Yes.
plan a more traditional day if you're going to be out?
That's a good question. Actually, that was one of my biggest fears. And so I talked with my principal, and she said, you know, we knew of a girl that'd be really good, and so I actually had a meeting with her at the beginning of the year, and I kind of went through everything with her and showed her everything, and she kind of was like, what? But then Jen, back there from TRECA, she has been wonderful where she helped me make a sub-binder. And this sub-binder is very, very detailed. I think there's like 15 steps for like how to turn the lights on in the morning. Because like I said, I don't have traditional like turn on the switch. I've got lamps and I've got my my Christmas lights and just all different things, lots of power strips. So I didn't want them to say, oh, we just had to turn the lights on, because that's our environment is a big part of how our classroom goes. So with the lights out, you know, it works well. I didn't want the day to be different, and that's why I panicked. So there's a lot of pictures with arrows pointing, so it really kind of makes it easier to function that way, because that was what I was worried about. I've got everything in there. So, anybody else have a question? Yes.
What happens when you have problems with internet connection?
That's something that we've had a couple times, and you know the thing with that is you know being a teacher, a lot of times during the day you think on your feet. You know, there's times when, oops, I forgot to copy that worksheet. If that's something that you do in your classroom, and then you think, oh, okay, now what? And you try to shift gears, and so that's what I've done. There's been probably 2 days that I can think of where there's been no internet, and I'm texting the tech people, and I'm saying help. But you know, we make it work. You know, you gotta think about. We still want to have the same things going on. We just have to do it in a different way. And the sad part is it doesn't go as well, but they're still learning. It's just a little louder because it's out of, you know, not the same as normal. So, yes.
Besides those programs that you showed, what are some other stations that you do?
The kids read us off from Daily 5. They meet with me. There could also be a game that they play. But other than that, it's a lot of data collecting, guided reading. I have on the duplication model, it shows you the percentage of time that they're working with me, percentage of time they're working in like community building, recess, that sort of thing, the percentage of time they're on computers. So that might help.
Do you think planning is easier or more time consuming this way or previously?
That's a good question. I really feel like before I was just, what's the next page? What's the next chapter? And that's what a lot of us do because it takes a lot of time. And with this, it's not that anymore. It's more individualized. So what you're doing is more meaningful because it's actually going to impact the kids. It's not like, okay, page 38, you know, you are actually, what you're working on is going to impact them. So most of my planning is for my stations. So once I know my standard that I'm working on, then it's just really zeroed into that skill. And then, yes, sometimes it can seem like a lot more, but a lot of times you know in your head how to help a child with maybe addition or money or whatever the content may be. So sometimes, you know, I may have an activity planned, but then based on how the kids perform, I may either say, okay, you're done, go work on ScoopPad, or I may say, okay, let's try this and mix it up. So does that answer? Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes a little bit more, but it's much more beneficial.
When you do guided reading, sorry,
yes.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
When you do guided reading, do you do traditional books
yes.
with the kids?
Yes.
Do you find that even with all the electronic stuff that they still get really, really excited about certain authors and,
yes.
and reading with you? And
yes, they still love and read aloud. They love Jeannie B. Jones, you know, things like that. We still do a lot of that because I really think that's important as well. Does that answer? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes.
I was looking Raz Kids or ScoopPad. Does one of those integrate vocabulary, or do you have something else that you use to enrich the vocabulary?
Well, it's more, there's not a site that like checks it, but Raz Kids does keep track a little bit of some data with vocabulary, but that's something where I would do in my guided reading groups mostly. So, yes?
Are you sharing how you got all your Chromebooks?
Yeah, it was through the TRECA Research and Development Project, and I had to show them exactly what I needed, and so I had my proposal and everything written, and they actually funded it for me. But since that, I've started looking at ways to, you know, keep it moving because the life on a Chromebook is 3 years. So I'm already in my head thinking, what am I going to do in 3 years? because I'm not going back to teaching how I did before. It may be different even from this that I'm doing now, maybe different in 3 years. I've used DonorsChoose.org before, and you know, I even think now, even though all of mine are working, I'm in the process of writing a proposal or project right now, so I can have some kind of stock. But last year I did a lot of these stations, but in a different way, and we had a tablet lab, and so every day I would send like my little tech team over, and they would get six tablets, and they'd come back, and then we did it. So really, if you have 4 computers, or if you have a couple of devices, it would work. And you could even do some bring your own technology stuff. I tried that last year a little bit too. So, does that help? Okay, yes.
I just know for me, I have a hard time tracking all the standards in mastery. Is there a system that you use to track to make sure that every child is getting all the standards for the year?
With like ScoopPad, it has them all listed. So you can have them by concept, you can have them by standard. And then that way you can see, and you can even, the report that I showed you is not the only one. There's also one that'll show you by like your class. So you can see like, oops, I haven't done a really good job in this area because they don't know it yet. And the same thing with a lot of the other programs.
I was more worried about class, so that was.
Yes, yeah, you can group them by class as well. Some of the features on ScoopPad, since it's $59 a year for the subscription that I'm using, but there are some higher levels that you can do, but for the subscription that I am using, sometimes you have to go through and like look at every student to see what skill maybe they need to work on. Yes?
For your read to self, do you do traditional books, ebooks, or a combination?
Well, they do the Be Genius for one of their stations, and so they all have book boxes. They have little cubbies since we don't have desks, so they have cubbies, and then they do they choose books just like how, like I said, I took a lot of Daily 5 stuff, and so they will choose their own books, and then they will just read those during their time. Yes?
Can you clarify what you meant by the life is 3 years? Does it die after 3 years?
Well, I just heard this, that they typically don't last longer than 3 years because they're kind of lightweight. They're not as sturdy as maybe a regular laptop. So I'm already, like I said, just thinking about that. So
Have you, like, I wrote a grant and I have a set of, we have 60 Chromebooks in our building now. And I have 20 housed in my room.
Yes.
And I've been noticing, even when kids have them on a desktop and they bump like headphones, we're getting cracks around the headphone plugs. Are you seeing that in the first grade room?
I haven't yet. I had one that got stuck, a headphone jack that got stuck in the hole, but other than that, it's been okay. And we actually, since we don't have, you can't see in the picture, but I have like breakfast trays that the kids sit on, and that's where they use them at. So yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet. Hopefully we don't. Yes? Yes?
You keep your stations up for like 1 week?
Yes, typically. And sometimes it'll be a couple weeks, but normally every week they change. But like I said, there's some that always stay the same unless I need to move things around and shift them due to like reading groups or some level of
Give an
groups.
example of one that would stay the same.
Like all of the programs that you saw up there, those all will stay the same, and then they always work with me too. So I try to make sure that all the kids are working with some adult during a small group time, so it's me. But making sure they're in some group, because I don't want the higher kids to just be like, okay, you've got it, so go over there. I still want to be enriching and extending them, so I'm still working with those kids. What is all this time? Anybody else have a question? And I'll kind of be out there if anybody else wants to chat more, but like I said, the QR code on the first page was the website, and then you can check out the duplication.
TRECA is
Thank you.
based out of Marion.
I mean, where physically, where are you guys?
her-
Where's Big Walnut?
It's probably, if you go